Am I the a-hole for not adopting my niece and sending her to foster care? I'm 34 male. My sister, 27, has a very long history of choosing toxic partners while ignoring her daughter who is 8 years old. The last man she has chosen as a romantic partner is a thug who would do meth in front of the little girl. When I discovered this, I sent CPS on their house. Sending them to jail for child mistreatment and neglect was a quick process because there was evidence of it everywhere in that house. However, there was no one else to take care of the child. I took temporary custody but cannot take care of a child for the rest of my life. I just can't. I don't have enough money, time, or energy for that. I never wanted kids, and I was okay with living a good enough life where I can keep myself afloat, and adding a kid to my lifestyle would break me financially. My niece was heartbroken, but I hope she can understand when becomes older. Because of that, she was put in the system in a house with other foster kids. My family's bashing me over this. My mom said that I destroyed a family and then didn't even care to adopt a child. Some of my uncles said the same. My best friend also told me that the system could be worse than whatever happened at my sister's house because she could at least have her mom besides her. I visit my niece quite frequently. She is always glad to see me but always asks at least once during the day why she can't live with me. And I say, because I can't give you a good life. Anyway, I'm very lost right now. Did I do the right thing? Now for the top comments. As a former foster youth, not the a-hole, it is going to be very hard for her in care. But if she gets a good home, they are more prepared for the trauma she went through. However, I will say you're the a-hole if you plan on leaving her life. Talk to her foster parents, case social worker, whoever, and set up regular visits. Like weekly visits. Maybe you can sign up as a respite as her parent so you can care for her sometimes, but not be a parent. Be present in her life because I'm sure she's lonely right now. Excellent advice. I hope Opie reads your post. Because if she doesn't get a good home, at least the family will be on notice that uncle is present and checking in on her. Why is no one else in the family stepping up to take her in? I don't really know. I think they stick it to me because I'm the only one still childless. Exactly. I hate when people criticize adults without children and try and pressure them to have kids or dump their own kids on them. You can sign up to be a foster parent. As an immediate relative to her parent, you get priority. And we will bend over backwards to get you certified so you can keep her. Then send you checks to help. If money is really the only thing stopping you, please call and ask about foster care certification. She could be in foster care in your home. Wouldn't that be awesome? I didn't know that. Maybe could look into it. Yes, and they will pay you a monthly sum for her care, maybe even food stamps. I used to work at a summer camp at a YMCA where half of the kids are foster care kids. The state's paid for the summer camp for the foster kids. If money is your biggest worry, and money can pay for a babysitter, after-school care, summer camp, etc., then let someone at CPS know and ask them what resources they have available. Wherever she is now or goes, group home or foster placement is getting paid. They can pay you that money so she can stay. Good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take care of my children's half-sister while their father has surgery? My ex and I share 3 children together ages 12, 11, and 9. Our marriage broke down bitterly more than 8 years ago. He had fallen for someone else. She was someone who had treated me like crap for months for what was then an unknown reason to me. But either they were having an emotional affair or a physical one, but something was brewing between them. She took her anger at the fact he was married out onto me, and when he was finally honest and open with me, he allowed her to come into the home we had shared to tell me she was going to be my kid's mom, and she would take my life over. So things were not good for a long time, but I have never forgiven him for how all of that was handled, especially when I had a very difficult time after the birth of our youngest. Fast forward 18 months and they're married, and she's pregnant. Ex is having a hard time getting our kids excited and happy, and attempted to get me to play happy family with them for the sake of the kids. I told him that the only positive thing I could do was say nothing at all. Because I was not going to play friends or like a caring family member for them or their baby. When his daughter was born, the mom bailed. Apparently, she hadn't really wanted kids, just him, but realized he was never going to love her more than the kids. She died a little less than 6 months later. When he found out, he wanted me to get involved with his daughter. He told me his ex wasn't coming back, and that he had 3 kids with 2 parents and 1 with just him. I told him I would never be that little girl's mother. Over the years, I have attempted to get used to this little girl. She's innocent and my children's half-sister. I'm not playing a familial role, but I am friendly around her and interact with her on occasion. Mostly I try to make things easier for my kids. Ex tried to remarry again, but his daughter wanted a mother, and a woman did not want to be one, so she's had a chaotic life. Ex has been suffering from some health problems for a number of years now. He's due to have a pretty big surgery to try and help, but he has nobody who can take care of his daughter while he's off his feet. So he asked me. He also asked if I would be willing to become her guardian if something were to happen to him. This is where more hard lines were drawn, and I said no. He begged me, and I told him I did not want to raise his child nor look after her, / spend that amount of time with her. He told me it would be better for her to be with me than friends of his who have no kids. He said it would be better for her to be with family. I told him there was no way. He tried to get our kids involved, but they told him it would be weird for her to live with us. I was angry at him for involving them like that. We argued for more than a week. He called me an a-hole for taking this out on his child. Then I found out she knew. She looked so sad when I saw her last. And knowing what she's been through, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Edited to add. Some questions have been asked a few times, so I feel like I should try to answer in my main post. Ex's family are not involved. They do not like each other. And they do not have a relationship. They do not stay in touch. Last I knew, they all live in different countries and have no interest in a relationship. The mom's family, it's complicated and I can't go into a lot, but they are not involved and are not really suitable people to have around / raising a child, so they would not be around to take care of her either. My children are not close with her. They are not unkind, but they are far closer with each other than they are her, and they don't have the same relationship with her as they have with each other. It's not even close to it, really. The little girl in question is 6. Not the a-hole at all. Why would he even tell her, a 6-year-old, that you refused it if not to emotionally manipulate you? He's a disgusting human being. Don't let him make you feel bad, because you've done nothing wrong. I don't believe he told her. I think he got careless while arguing with me and didn't make sure she was out of earshot. The only reason I think that is because he looked so guilty last I saw him. He even sounds it, more than he ever did for anything else. At least he has that much going for him. I was thinking he was the weaselest weasel who ever weaseled. First off, wow. I can't fathom the amount of hurt you've been through with him. Definitely not the a-hole. You have no obligation to him after what he put you through. Oh, he put me through a world of hurt. And really, I'm only starting to feel the edges coming off the anger. Still can't forgive him, and I doubt I ever will. But the way he treated me, allowed her to treat me, and then expected me to act like they were my BFFs? I'll never forget that time of my life. That's for sure. Looking at the timeline, you were pregnant and/or with a baby when that all went down. That would have made it extra scary and added extra pain to the memories. I understand how he feels it is in the best interest of the child to keep her with her siblings in the event of his death. The problem is that it's too much to ask of you. Has he ever really even apologized for his cruelty to you? Not the a-hole. That man is a horrendous manipulative piece of work. That's as polite as I can be talking about someone like him. I hate him, and I've never met him, lol. You're not the a-hole, not even remotely, and good on you for standing your ground and not being manipulated into anything. I genuinely hope that his daughter is happy and very well cared for though. Little Angel deserves nothing but love and happiness. Next story. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my mom after she said she probably can't attend my husband's memorial? My female 28 husband died a month ago. My heart feels like it's been ripped out of my chest, but I'm trying to get through it all. The funeral was small, in his home state. We have the memorial on Saturday, which friends and extended family are attending. My mom is very close to her siblings. I want to add that I also have a good relationship with my cousins, aunts, and uncles. And my reaction isn't based off some build-up anger or something. My 5-year-old cousin fell yesterday and hit his head. He had a pretty bad bruise and vomited. They went to the ER. He got checked out with a CT scan, and thankfully everything is fine internally. My aunt let the family know what was going on, and my mom was going crazy with worry. She let me know and told me to talk to my aunt, so I called her and she was crying, saying how scared they all got. Then mom said she wasn't sure if she could attend my husband's memorial depending on how my cousin is doing. I was pretty shocked. She said that my aunt and uncle are going through a lot of emotional turmoil and she's worried about them. Now, I will completely understand if my aunt's family can't make it, but I want my mother to be with me through my emotional turmoil. I admit I sort of lost it. I cried/yelled at her on the phone that I'm sorry what happened to my cousin, but they are fine. My husband is dead. I'm barely holding it together, and now she's telling me she can't make it? My mom said I'm overreacting and something really bad could have happened to my cousin. I hung up. She just sent me a message saying she understands I'm emotional and she'll try to make it, but I should be more understanding towards my baby cousin. I decided to post here for some unbiased opinions if I went too far yelling at my mom. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I feel like her daughter should take priority over a child with 2 functioning parents. Then to gaslight you over your feelings? Damn. Her mother is trying to make it seem as though a child with 2 parents being injured is more important than her daughter grieving the recent death of her husband. To say her daughter is overreacting is discounting her very reasonable feelings on the situation. Is gaslighting. Exactly that. Sorry for your cousin. As a father, I know how stressful it can be, but I'm glad cousin's fine. But they have each other, while you shouldn't be alone. You have every reason to lose it for whatever reason, and this one's particularly justified. My sincere condolences for your loss. Yes, Mom said something terrible could have happened to the cousin? Well, something irrevocably terrible happened to Opie's husband, and Mom should definitely be there. So sad. Exactly this. The parents are beside themselves and in emotional turmoil over something that could have been bad but wasn't? Neither of these people are going to make it as parents if they get this caught up in every fall, bump, and bruise. And Opie's mom is enabling this? WTF. Opie, you are so not the a-hole. And honestly, if my mom did something this heartless, I probably wouldn't talk to her for a long time. Not saying you should cut her off. Just saying that's what I would do because I'd be so hurt/angry. Also, my sincerest condolences about your husband. I can't even imagine being that heartbroken and not having my mom there to comfort me. Absolutely not the a-hole. If there is ever a time that your mom absolutely needs to put her worries and other people's needs aside for you, it is now. There should have been a non-negotiable arrangement for her apart from an absolute emergencies. I don't know what support she can possibly provide to the parents of the child who is doing fine that could ever outweigh the support you need from her right now. So sorry for your loss, Opie. I hope you have people around you, mother or not. Yep, the fact that your mother considered leaving your side for what could have been is weird and tells me she likes drama. Not the a-hole, and I'm so very sorry for your loss. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to speak at my severely disabled brother's funeral? My 18 male brother, 14 male, was severely disabled. He had autism with the mind of 12-month-old. Most of the memories I have from before his birth were positive, but these are limited since I was only 4 when he was born. My parents suspected that something wasn't right when he was 18 months and regressing. From what they told me, he said his first word at 14 months and was reaching his milestones, but one day at 18 months he just started regressing. He was diagnosed with autism, and it was severe autism not long afterwards. He got what's called respite care starting when he was 6 years old, and someone would look after him for several hours most days of the week. In spite of this, the respite care decreased as he got older and I was in charge of him a lot. This meant little to no time with friends, no after-school sports, just looking after that thing. My brother outgrew me when he was 12 and I was 16. I'm only 5'6", 125 pounds. He was 5'10", 295 pounds. I'll let you figure out where this is going. I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD, the former also likely because of him. My brother suffered a heart attack and died on the 11th. He was very obese and also had a heart condition we knew nothing about. I got the news while at school. The principal called me to his office and broke the news. I'm not going to lie. I cried out of happiness, and I basically celebrated in his office. He awkwardly dismissed me, and when I got home from school, my parents yelled at me that I was heartless. But I told them that I had no life because of him, and they've hinted that I would have been his full-time caregiver sometime in the future. I hated my brother. I'm grounded until further notice and have been since Tuesday of last week. I'm typing this from an old iPhone I found in my nightstand drawer. My parents are basically making me write a speech to recite at his funeral, which is on Saturday, with my dad writing some rough drafts, but I told them no. I feel for my parents because nobody should have to experience losing a child, but when I found out he died, it was as if the world had been lifted off my shoulders. Not the a-hole for not wanting to read a speech. You're the a-hole for everything else. I get that you hated your brother, but it's not about him right now. Your parents are grieving. Badly. Don't be an ass and celebrate their trauma. I'm not celebrating their trauma. It's not my intention. I celebrated the fact that I will finally have a life and maybe overcome my PTSD now that it's gone. And you celebrated very publicly. Intentions or not, the result is the same. Your parents just lose one of their child, and the other one is laughing in their face at their misfortune. Imagine how hard this must be for them. Try to have a little empathy for them. They don't deserve this. Opie is a mentally ill teenager who spent most of his life being parentified and neglected in favor of his younger brother. If Opie's parents didn't want him to feel this way about his younger brother, or about their parents for that matter, they should have made better choices. You need therapy. You're right. I'm hoping that when/if I become ungrounded, that I will start the path to recovery. Don't wait. Talk to your school counselor. My school schedule is full 8 to 3, and my mom picks me up from school promptly after since I got my car keys taken away. And sessions during lunch isn't optional because she doesn't allow food in her office. I've got an 8:30 bedtime because I'm grounded, so sorry for not responding anymore. Am I the a-hole for calling my dad out for saying mom would have loved his wife/would have been happy for them as a couple? My mom died when I was 16 male. 3 years later, dad started dating the one woman my mom hated most in the world. They had a beef going on since childhood, and then when they worked together, it continued. Mom used to say how much she hated her, how she'd be glad when she no longer had to have her in her life. She said she was the worst person ever. It used to be a joke with my dad and mom's family that mom would hunt her if mom was the first of the two of them to die. Everyone knew the feeling was mutual between them though. So much that people they worked with did everything so they never had to work together. And their boss almost fired my dad's current wife back in the day for her unprofessional behavior. Dad fell in love with her though, and ever since has been determined to paint a different picture. It turned my mom's family against him, who hated him for his choice of partner after mom. They said if he expects to reunite with mom in death, then he has another thing coming, because she would never forgive him for choosing her, his current wife. His choice of wife bothers me too, as well as how he talks about her and my mom. He has talked endlessly about how mom would have loved his wife, or how happy she would be for them. Once, he even said she sent his wife to us when I have kids. They can have a grandma. My fiancé and I were having dinner with my dad and her parents. Dad's wife was there too. Dad started off on his BS about this, and I called him out and reminded him that mom hated her, and that the feeling was very much mutual while she was alive, that he had a right to move on, but to stop painting a pretty picture. He told me that I had done that to hurt him and that he didn't need my judgment. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad is attempting to gaslight everyone around him so he doesn't have to feel bad about his choice and partner. The other side of the situation is, he doesn't have to feel bad. He waited an appropriate amount of time after the loss of his first wife and then found love. It doesn't really matter who with. He does not require his late wife's approval or your approval. He's an adult, you're an adult, and he has every right to be happy. Right, be with who you want to be, but stop spinning BS yarn about destiny, or that your late partner sent you to one person they absolutely despised so you can be happy again. If I was Opie's wife, I would be resurrecting myself instantaneously to come after them. LMAO. Like, fine, if you fell in love, whatever, but don't be telling lies about me because I'm not there to defend myself. Not the a-hole. He can marry who he wants, but he doesn't get to 1. Fabricate the past, 2. Demand you play along, and 3. Not face the consequences of lying so blatantly to the point he's seriously repulsing people. I'd respect him more if he had acknowledged the true history between the two women, admitted he liked his new wife despite this, and stopped trying this frankly Orwellian crap. Frankly, I'd go very low contact with the man, because he's going to try to brainwash any future kids with his fantasy Lala version. Seriously, I'm petty, but I would have asked him, how does it feel to know your wife married you to get revenge on a dead woman? I also wouldn't want him near my kids, so his outlandish suggestion that she would be their grandparents would definitely send me to low contact territory. It's not judgment, Dad. It's a fact. I'm happy you're happy, but stop trying to make it something it's not. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Basically came here to say this. It's great he's happy again, but that doesn't negate the other factors in the situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for intentionally drinking at family events so I'm not forced to babysit? I, 30 male, I'm the only one of my siblings without children. This is a personal choice for many reasons I won't get into. My parents live with my sister who is 9 years older and has 2 kids I see often. However, my brother, 2 years older, has a young girl and 2 little boys. All 3 are likely on the spectrum, but my brother and his wife refuse to check through a doctor. They're also homeschooled in a very rural area, and I don't get to see my brother and his family very often, maybe once a year. Every time I do spend time with my brother and his family, it never fails that he finds a way to dump his 3 kids on me, who may have special needs, the second he can, so him and his wife can disappear from the kids' area. I really only see my brother's family during large family events. The kids usually have their own separate area to play and eat, away from the adults smoking cigarettes and drinking, etc., so they can socialize and let loose, so to speak. My brother's 3 kids don't leave the house very much, almost never, as they live on a big farm. So when they go to these kinds of events, they are over the top excited and harder to manage. And one is nonverbal but constantly walks around looking to play with literally deadly things. So needless to say, I'm not qualified or even capable to watch my brother's 3 kids by myself as well as what they need. Plus, their cousins, my sister's kids, also want to spend time with their cousins. So I'm sitting there by myself watching 5 kids aged 4 to 8 by myself. 3 of which may have special needs. One is a freaking monster. And because I'm the cool uncle, I gave them a Nintendo Switch for my own peace of mind. My brother assumes every time that I'll just watch his kids. It's gotten so blatant on my brother's end that lately at family events, my brother will give me a physical paper list of parental duties, a backpack with stuff for the kids, then turn his phone off in front of me, then walk away after dumping his kids on me. I go to these family events to spend time with my whole family, not to be an isolated babysitter. I love my nieces and nephews, but this is one of the reasons I didn't have children in my 20s. Family events are just as important to me as other parents there, and they can manage to watch their own kids. But my brother always finds a way to ditch me with his kids. Then ultimately my sister's kids join in too. I don't go to these family events to be a babysitter, so I've just started drinking a bit before I show up and drink a little bit consistently enough to safely say I shouldn't have 5 small children in my care. Since these times are really the only times my brother sees me, he thinks I'm a drunk and spreading rumors as such. Not at all, but laugh at your solution instead of just confronting them. You can do whatever you want at family parties because you don't have kids. I would maybe tell him that you're not available to babysit at parties and he should plan accordingly. I've definitely talked to them. Lol, they act like martyrs because they procreated. I hate people like that. Like, just because you brought these kids into this world doesn't mean you have any extra privileges. Go take care of your spawn. Parents always seem to forget all the rewards of being a parent has the second they're slightly inconvenienced. Not the a-hole. This is just your brother using you without any thought to you as a person. Get your drink on. Your other family members that actually care will ask you if you're an alcoholic. You can be honest with them. The ones that just accept the rumors, well, that tells you their opinion of you. I have one aunt who tells me I should join AA, but she only has the nerve to tell me that while she's also been drinking. Haha. Not the a-hole. But that's probably not the best way to deal with this. Drinking and allowing others to assume you're a drunk is ridiculous. Get into conversations and then say you can't simply leave the chat and look after the kids. Or start cooking something so that you can't abandon the stove or the pan for too long. Honestly, there's no point being honest in these situations because they will probably only get selfishly offended. But perhaps you don't want to be drunk every time you meet your family. Trust me, this was far from my first solution. I even tried bringing friends, and my brother still finds a way to corner me. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for screaming at my husband and daughter because I didn't clean the house? So I, 37 female, have a husband, 38 male, and a daughter, Ellie, 17 female. I won't specify exactly what my job is because it's not relevant to this situation. But long story short, I was offered some extra training from my workplace in order to gain higher qualifications and therefore go onto a higher paid ranking in the business. This training was a week long, which isn't much. However, it was about 6 hours drive from where I live, which meant I had to book a hotel and stay there for a week. I asked my husband if he could look after Ellie for the week. He agreed happily, and that was that. Now, I'm not exactly a perfectionist, and our house is by no means pristine. However, I do like to make sure it is clean and keep it at least somewhat tidy and presentable. I clean surfaces, toilets, floors, etc. regularly. However, there can be a little mess about a place, which is not unusual. Walking through the front door to my house after that training week absolutely horrified me. We have 2 cats and they are litter trained. The litter was full with cat poo and it stank the house out. Neither my husband nor my daughter, both able-bodied people, had bothered to take care of the cat litter. There were dirty dishes piling up everywhere in the kitchen and they smelled bad too. There were muddy footprints on the carpet, food smushed onto the sofa. The house was just a complete mess. After a week of work training for 15 hours each day, I did not have it in me to get angry in that moment. I just sat on the filthy sofa and cried. Then my daughter and husband came down the stairs, complaining that I hadn't immediately started washing the dishes as soon as I came through the door, so they could make food and drink. At this point, I was really started to see red. What made me lose my temper completely was when my husband said I was ungrateful for him giving up his time to look after Ellie all day. I lost it. I screamed at my husband saying that he has no right to expect me to be grateful when he left the house that I paid for in such a disgusting state. I then said that Ellie's a 17-year-old girl who can look after herself for the majority of the time, which meant he was completely over-exaggerating the extent of how much time he gave up. I then said to both of them that if they are going to treat me like this, they can just leave and go somewhere else and live like tramps elsewhere. My husband took Ellie and left. I don't know where they are now. My guess is that they went to my husband's parents' house. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You need to take a video of the house before they come home. Get evidence as to what state the house is in. I honestly would pack my items back up. Get a hotel for 2 more nights and tell them that if the house isn't to at least the standard it was in which you left, consequences would follow, especially to your husband. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry that your family is such a jerk to you. P.S. Your poor cats. Your husband and daughter care so little for your pets that they forced them to go outside a box? This is incredibly stressful and cruel. Please make sure you remember this detail especially. They walked past these animals every day and didn't care that they were hurting them. And send the video to anyone who yells at you after believing your husband's lies. Not stay home. You weren't even there. How would it be your responsibility to clean up the mess they made? And your husband is not doing you a special favor by looking after his own daughter. He is a parent, that is what parents do. Even if she were little and required a lot of his time and attention, he would not have given up time to help you out. He would have been simply a father. They take you for granted for all the cleaning you do, obviously. I would not want them to come home until you've all talked this through, and they understand why they behaved like ungrateful a-holes. And also, they need to clean the house. Maybe you should go to a hotel till they have cleaned the place up, actually. A few people have suggested me going to a hotel and waiting for them to clean up. I completely agree and I wish I had thought of that in the moment. However, I was so angry I wasn't really thinking properly. I still might do it though, if that's what it takes. OP, you absolutely should. That is awful how your daughter and husband treated you and let the house get. He wasn't babysitting. She isn't 1, she's 17. They should be able to empty litter boxes and wash dishes. It isn't like they had to deep clean. Just not make a mess for a week. That isn't hard. Let this be a huge wake-up call to you. You haven't let them get away with you doing everything. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling a fellow mother of a special needs child that my daughter is not responsible for her child? I have 2 children who we'll call Maria, 14 female, and David, 7 male. David is on the autism spectrum. He is non-vocal and requires a fair bit of specialized care. Since his birth, Maria has had to take on a partial caring role for David for a variety of reasons. I make sure that this is not to an extent where she is taking care of him, however. Just enough so that she can help out while not losing out on her own life and experiences as a child. Unfortunately, this does not always work out as intended, and sometimes Maria does have to step up when I and my husband fail. But I always make sure to make it up to her and reward her for the time she helps us out like I would a normally paid caretaker. This summer, I enrolled Maria in a summer art program. She had been looking forward to it for months and was ecstatic on the first day. This enthusiasm quickly turned sour, and she stopped wanting to go after only the first 2 weeks. This was because Maria was essentially assigned to watch over a girl we'll call Helen. Helen is a girl who is also on the autism spectrum. I know Helen's mother personally. And when she learned that her daughter and mine were going to be in the same art classes over the summer, she asked the organizers personally to essentially assign Maria to be Helen's mandatory friend over the summer. Over the first 2 weeks, Maria was essentially burdened with Helen. She spent a good chunk of the class time helping Helen out with her own projects, instead of being able to work on her own. She also at one point had to help one of the teachers out when Helen began to have an anxiety attack and did not get to do any art the entire day. When I learned of this, I was livid. I contacted the organizers of the art program and went off, demanding my money back and threatening to report them for having a student, and a minor of that, responsible for the care of a special needs child. They let it slip to me that Helen's mother told them that I and her were close friends, which is not the case. I called Helen's mother up as well and went off, demanding to know where she got the nerve to ruin my child's own experience and treat her like a caretaker for her own child. She claimed that Ellen wanted to do the art program, but she was afraid that she would not be able to do it alone. That Maria had experience with special needs children and that she felt safe with her being next to Helen's side. She then yelled at me, called me a heartless a-hole, and said that I should know where she was coming from. I got my money back Monday and I'm looking into private art tutoring options for Maria. When my husband learned what happened, he lost it. Said that I should be understanding of Helen's mother considering our own situation. So now I'm second-guessing myself. Edit, just a quick clarification. My husband is not mad at me for pulling Maria from the class or being mad about her being used as a caretaker. He agrees that was wrong and is not happy about it. What he got mad about was me calling Helen's mom and confronting her. His point of being understanding to her was not about Maria being a caretaker for Helen. It was about Helen's mom asking in the first place. He does not agree with the way the class handled it at all, and he supports me in taking this issue all the way to the top. What he is mad about is dropping Helen's mom in and fighting with her personally. So, for the question at hand, involving Helen, not the a-hole, you're right, your daughter shouldn't have to look after someone if she doesn't want to. But on that note, Maria does have to step up when I and my husband fail. Do better. Because I guarantee the biggest reason she's disappointed she couldn't do the art program is that she needed a break from parenting her brother and didn't get one. I get that you compensate her, but time is a finite resource she isn't going to get back. You're the a-hole. This reason alone is why I think Opie's the a-hole. Your 14-year-old child is not there to pick up the slack for your failed parenting. I highly doubt they're paying her as much as a trained caregiver would make to compensate for the 14-year-old's time. A reward is not hourly pay for caring for someone. I'm glad Opie stuck up for her child, but she's still an a-hole. Stop being cheap and hire a daycare service or caregiver to let your child have a childhood again. I don't think this is fair. It feels like Opie's daughter steps in possibly no more than any older sibling with a non-special needs younger sibling. People often ask their older children to help out without it being abuse. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad, aunts, and uncles to grow up and get over their mom's affair? My grandma, 65 female, and I, 21 male, get along really well. She's amazing. I love her and look up to her. That's why my perspective can be biased and need some point of views to know if I messed up. Grandma had 5 children. My dad, 43 male. My uncle Tim, 42 male. My uncle Matt, 35 male. My Aunt Faith, 47 female, and my Aunt Susan, 30 female, with Grandpa, 66 male. Grandpa was a terrible father and a garbage husband. An alcoholic who spent all his money on liquor. Never supported Grandma while she worked her butt to provide for her kids as a baker. She got tired of it and kicked him out in the 90s. She stayed as single mom and only provider. Did he pay child support? No. Did he help her buy a house for his kids? No. Did he ask for custody or try to spend time with his kids? No, he only visited once in a blue moon. Grandma and Grandpa never divorced since my grandma didn't believe in it and she was always a single mother. Then my grandma started dating William, 67 male, 2 years ago, but she didn't introduce him to her kids because she was afraid of their reaction and I was the only one who knew about the affair. Grandma announced that she was moving to William's house this past July and everyone was furious and started accusing her of cheating and that she was choosing her affair partner over her own kids. She was even hesitant about moving in with William, but I encouraged her because he makes her happy and he is a nice man. It's been almost 2 months and they refuse to talk to her or have low contact with her and that is hurting her. She asked my grandpa for a divorce and he got mad at her and accused her of cheating. They were talking trash about her. They sexed at a family dinner. Thus, I told them to grow up and stop acting like kids since they are not. I told them that they should be happy about their mom's happiness because that woman dedicated her life to make life easier for them. And it's so unfair that they crap on her while praising my grandpa, who had girlfriends, by the way. They all called me the a-hole for not taking their feelings into consideration, and they say that something doesn't feel right about their mom dating at this age. They accuse her of cheating, but that isn't cheating. They haven't been together for around 25 years. My grandpa had a couple of girlfriends, and yes, they were mad at him too, but it's time to grow up. Am I the a-hole for telling them to grow up? I think they need to understand that their parents ain't getting back together, in case they have a hope, and that grandma has a right to be happy. I mean, she did her job already without any help. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Legally, they're separated. Unfortunately, your grandma will have to divorce grandpa if she does want to have a marriage between her and William, recognized under state and federal law. It's not an affair since they're separated. Not the a-hole. Your dad, uncles, and aunts are childish and are acting in a selfish way. Your grandma has the right to be happy at any age. As you said, this is very far from cheating, since your grandparents split up over 2 whole decades ago. Your family needs to accept that, and let her have some joy and happiness in her life finally, when she can focus on herself instead of focusing on raising 5 kids alone. I feel sad for grandma to realize that she raised such ungrateful a-holes. How utterly disappointing for her. Could they even name one instance where their father did anything of significance for them? Not the a-hole. I bet it's not even the cheating so much as it is that she has someone in her life who gets some of her attention and they want it all. That cheating is just an excuse. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your grandparents have legally been separated for 25 years, and your dad and his siblings bear being ageist by saying at 65 your grandma is too old to date. Personally, I'd be telling them the statistics about STDs in the senior population. The geriatric population really likes to get it on, you know, seeing as they don't have to worry about anyone getting knocked up. Those senior living communities and nursing homes are just as much more wrinkled version of Love Island. And your grandma still has 20 years to go before she hits that crowd. I'm not at all kidding. Look it up. Old people are really into lots of casual hookups. You are 100% right on this. You are awesome for having your grandmas back. I hope your grandma and William have the best golden years together, and that her children all get their heads out of their behinds and grovel at their moms and William's feet for being pricks. Can't confirm on this one. Here in the UK, there was a whole mini epidemic in care homes for the elderly with syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my mother-in-law to leave our wedding because her perfume was bothering me? I just got married to the love of my life. I've usually got it on pretty well with my in-laws. Usually, my mother-in-law doesn't wear perfume, or at least not any that I've been able to notice. My wife had her mother be her matron of honor, so she was standing with us up front. It was a small area, and with her right next to my wife, I was able to smell her perfume. Shortly after the ceremony started, I started to get watery eyes and sniffles. Our ceremony was supposed to only last 20 minutes max, so I thought I would just push through unless it got worse. It didn't get worse until after the ceremony when new mother-in-law hugged me. Itchy eyes, itchy throat, and headache got added to the mix. My wife asked if I was alright, and I told her I think her mother's perfume was getting to me. We had someone go get some allergy medication. I took one, but it didn't do a whole lot, and I started to feel out of it. Get to the reception, and we started to do our photos, and I couldn't do group photos with my mother-in-law in them. I told my wife we needed to figure something out, because my symptoms weren't letting up, and I didn't want to be out of it from taking more meds for our reception or have to leave our own reception. My wife asked her mom to keep some distance between us to try and make it easier for me. It didn't really. The perfume followed her like a damn cloud. Then my wife asked her mom to try and wash wherever she dabbed her perfume, but mother-in-law said she hadn't dabbed it on. She spritzed herself, so it was on her dress too. At that point, they said they were out of ideas and there wasn't anything we could do. I said there was one more thing, and suggested that maybe mother-in-law leave to change her dress and then come back, or even just go to a nearby thrift store or something and get any kind of clothes. I'd even pay for them. I asked my mother-in-law to either please to do that or to leave, and would visit later with cake because it was getting to the point that I would have to leave. My wife and mother-in-law objected to this because my wife wanted her mom there the whole time. I understand the day was big for my wife and she wanted her mother there. And I wanted her there too, but I wasn't able to enjoy my own wedding. I wound up sitting outside with some of my family and groomsmen. I started to feel better, and when I did, my wife came out and asked if I'd be going back inside then. I told her not so long as her mom was still there and hadn't changed. That night ended with my wife spending our wedding night at her parents' house. Am I the a-hole for asking my mother-in-law to leave? Edited to add, yes, my wife is aware of this. I had a similar reaction to a perfume she bought before. This was the only third time I've had a reaction that bad to perfumes. My wife and mother-in-law objected to this because my wife wanted her mom there the whole time. But your wife didn't want her new husband there? Oof. Definitely not the a-hole. Bad situation, but you were being reasonable. Mother-in-law should have gone and taken a shower and returned with clean clothes. Wife is being unreasonable. I hope you didn't sign the wedding papers yet. I actually had an allergic reaction to the flowers in my wife's bouquet. But since the wedding was outside, it didn't hit me until days later when we were driving away from the hotel with a bouquet in the car. There wasn't a viable option for sealing it up, so we ended up tossing out the bouquet. Mother-in-law sent over a vase of flowers a few months ago with the same flowers. I didn't even realize it was the same flowers, but within a minute of me being in the same room, I was wrecked. Not the a-hole. I can't believe your mother-in-law and your new wife would be so selfish. You struggling to breathe and simply be at your wedding is wildly messed up when mother-in-law had opportunity to just buy a new outfit or come back later. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my daughter be in wedding photos? I, 30 female, have a daughter, Lily, 5 female. My brother, James, 32 male, and his wife, Brittany, 26 female, got married in July. I was friendly with Brittany before they were dating/engaged, but we weren't friends. James and I are very close though. When James first proposed to Brittany and they started wedding planning, it was made very clear to me that Lily and I would be part of the wedding. Throughout the wedding planning process, it was reiterated that Lily would be a flower girl and I would be maid of honor. A few weeks before the wedding, Brittany came to my house to talk to me. She explained that her family had raised concerns about kids attending the wedding, and Brittany/James have decided to make the ceremony child-free, but that Lily was more than welcome to come to the reception. I tell her something along the lines of, okay, it's your wedding. I love my brother, so I'll do whatever he asks of me. Fast forward to the rehearsal. We line up and everything is going as expected until Brittany's 3 nieces, 5 female, 7 female, 8 female, walk in as junior bridesmaids. I'm confused and slightly annoyed, but whatever. After, James pulls me to the side and says that Brittany was worried that Lily would accidentally ruin the wedding with a temper tantrum, and that's why they lied about the wedding be child-free. I explained to James that this really angers me, and it hurt that they think that about my child. But it's fine. I had already arranged for my friend to watch Lily during the ceremony and then meet me for the reception. James said he understood my feelings and didn't agree with Lily not being invited. The day of the wedding, Brittany asks where Lily is and why she wasn't there while we got ready. I explained that she is with a friend and will be at the reception later. Brittany then says she's going to call so Lily can be brought over for the pictures because people will ask why she's missing in the pictures, and it will make her look bad. I told her she can call, but my friend knows the situation and won't come until I ask her to. Brittany called James to have him make me stop being a petty witch, but he said he knew the plan and didn't see a problem with it. She then asked what they're supposed to tell people when they look at photos and ask where Lily is. I said to tell them that she wasn't invited since she has too many temper tantrums. She called me a witch and said I was taking things too personally. After that, the wedding was awkward to say the least. There was a lot of drama within the wedding party that had nothing to do with the situation. James texted our family group chat with a link to the wedding photos. Now extended family has been reaching out, wanting to know why Lily isn't in any pictures and I have to explain the situation. My mom is on my side, but all my aunts/uncles said that I'm a petty a-hole. So am I the a-hole? Edited to add. 1. Does my daughter has a history of throwing temper tantrums? No, throwing temper tantrums is out of the norm for her. 2. How I was maid of honor without knowing other kids would be involved in the wedding? I was originally just a bridesmaid, but drama within the wedding party is the reason Brittany's promoted me to maid of honor. 3. Just to clarify the timeline a little bit, James and Brittany did first look/couple photos the week before the wedding. On the wedding day itself, the only picture that we took were get ready/bridal party and family photos. Now for the comments. What an absolute crap show. Not the a-hole. Your daughter wasn't invited, so why would she be in the pictures? Although I'm curious, Why is your family so concerned about your daughter having a temper tantrum? Is this a pattern with her? No. She doesn't throw temper tantrums on a regular basis. It's definitely not a pattern and is very out of the norm for her. Not the a-hole, whether Lily throws tantrums or not. The bride/groom made their choices clear. Who comes and doesn't is their choice, nobody else's. Lying to you about it was super trashy. No excuse for them there. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Make it seem like the kids were warmly welcomed when in fact Lily was coldly excluded. It's their wedding day and you must respect that, but that doesn't mean having your daughter become a prop for the official photos, or assisting them in misleading the family and relatives by implying Lily was invited when she wasn't. Personally, I think you've done perfectly. Just explain the situation and tell your brother you understand and forgive him for misleading you about Lily, but you understand he has bigger problems than you. And if he needs to talk to someone, you'll always be there. He probably will at some point, because it sounds like Brittany is in the middle of more problems than Lily's wedding photo. Not the a-hole. She got her wish. Lily was not at a wedding and was at a reception, which is why sometimes we have to be careful what we wish for. The photos represent things perfectly. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for sending the police after my ex-brother-in-law after an heirloom got lost? My ex-husband and I had a son, 11 now. 4 years ago, we divorced and he moved into the outhouse of his aging dad. Then last year, my ex died of a sudden stroke. Our marriage ended on good terms, so at the funeral, my ex-father-in-law offered us to come over and look through my ex's stuff to see if we wanted anything. He also said that we should take our time as it's not going anywhere. It took us 6 weeks to gather the strength, only to realize that most of his stuff was already gone. We asked my ex-father-in-law about it, who was as surprised as us. He explained my ex's brother was there a couple of times to check on the house and occasionally get some documents. After a lot of pressing, my ex-brother-in-law admitted that he sold or threw away most things to prepare the house to be rented out. My son and I were heartbroken. My ex-father-in-law was too, but took this as a sign to add something to his will. My son and he both were history buffs and bonded over that. My ex-father-in-law also had a small collection of historical artifacts, books, and other trinkets that was his biggest pride. And after the whole ordeal with my ex, he put in his will that my son is to inherit it. 2 weeks ago, my ex-father-in-law passed. We waited until after the funeral before we went over to get the collection. First time ex-brother-in-law told us he was in a hurry at the moment and we should come back later. The next day, he told us that he couldn't find it. Must have been lost or the old man got rid of it. Heck, for all I know, it could have been stolen. I saw red. As soon as I was back home, I called the cops and told them the story and made sure to stress my ex-brother-in-law's suspicion that it might have been stolen. They must have finally come round to investigate because yesterday I received a call from a furious ex-brother-in-law that the police were at his home. After realizing there was neither remorse nor urgency in his voice, I doubled down with a bluff and told him I'm suspecting that there might have been cultural goods in the collection that would have needed to be registered, and that I was just about to call the cops again because this would escalate this from simple theft to antiquities fencing. We had the collection dropped off at our house an hour later, after he suddenly was able to find it. My son is over the moon, and I'm happy he has a way of connecting to his late granddad through the collection. Being a small town, this is now naturally the talk of the city, and I have no doubts that the time the police were at their house will be brought up every time someone says ex-brother-in-law's name for years to come. And of course, everybody is picking sides. And through the vineyard, I heard that some people are painting me as a greedy a-hole, while others think the same of my ex-brother-in-law. While none of this will have an impact on my family, we're likely to move away now that there's not family left here. I do feel bad for maybe tainting my son's memory of his granddad and uncle by going for the nuclear option and fear it might have been unproportional as he could have genuinely just been unable to find it. So, am I the a-hole? I don't think he was genuinely anything. You bluffed. And an hour later he found it? Yeah, right. Definitely not the a-hole. He deserves to have the cop visit tag follow him for the rest of his days. Bless his heart. It's so weird how people can complain about others making them face consequences for their actions, but those consequences are 100% normal and expected. Like, you stole things. Police visits only? You are getting off lucky, buddy. Not the a-hole. I would call your brother-in-law a vulture, except that's pretty harsh on actual vultures who are useful to the ecosystem. You found and protected your son's inheritance. Any small-town gossips who don't see that have either been fed a skewed version of events or are just as greedy grabby as brother-in-law. Oh, I'm pretty sure in the current retelling of events, there are already drugs, the mafia or the government involved. Nothing beats the creativity of a game of telephone involving a rural small town. Am I the a-hole for calling my father-in-law a bastard after he pressured us into getting a paternity test? In my husband's family, you inherit from your grandparents. My husband's father got into his head that our son was the product of me having an affair. He said that he would not set aside money for him unless we got a paternity test. My husband told his father to go screw himself and we cut him off. It has been a couple of years now and he wants back into our lives, but he still wanted a paternity test. My husband and I talked about it, and we agreed under the condition that when it turned out that my husband was the father, the money for our son would be in an irrevocable trust for his future, even though obviously his grandfather has not passed away. He agreed, and we did a test sort of like 23andMe, but more reputable and private. It just so happens that my son is indeed my husband's child, but he is not related to a bunch of his paternal relatives. My husband's mom is a saint, and she divorced her Jack's ex a long time ago. Father-in-law immediately started crapping on her for cheating, since obviously the tests show that my husband was illegitimate. 2 tests later, and the results are back, and my father-in-law is definitely my husband's father. My father-in-law, however, is not the offspring of the man he always thought was his dad. We had a legally binding contract, so my son has inheritance waiting for him when he turns 25. We saw my father-in-law over the holidays, and he was complaining about how he had to liquefy some of his assets to set up the trust fund. I said that if he had just accepted his grandson and hadn't been such a bastard about it, then we would all have been happier. He got very quiet and very angry. He said I was being very rude to insult him like that. I said that he had been rude to insinuate that I was cheating on my husband, and that technically he was indeed a bastard. He is furious with me, and mad at my husband for letting me talk about him that way. My husband told him that he brought this all on himself, and that if he wants to be in our lives, he will treat us all with respect. He followed up that since we have the money now, there is nothing he can hold over us if we choose to kick him back out. We are hearing a lot from relatives of my husband. Some good, some bad. Overall, they think I need to be more polite, but they agree he did this to himself. Now for the top comments. And that technically he was indeed a bastard. LMAO. Sheesh, what a story. Let us know if he finds out who his bio dad was. Not the a-hole. Plot twist? It was to help. Screw their polite. He wasn't polite when he basically called you a loose woman. Now that your son's trust is set up, you should give him as much respect as he has given you. And go no contact, because he's a great Ajax. So he barges into your lives demanding a paternity test, accuses you of cheating, but you need to be more polite? I think the heck not. You're not the a-hole, and your father-in-law needs an attitude adjustment. Not sure why I'd want to continue tolerating somebody like that in your lives, but congrats on a free trust fund. Yep. I'm sick of this mentality where people are supposed to be polite to the person who have utterly trashed and disrespected them. That's complete and utter BS, and anyone who dared to suggest that to me would get a solid telling off. Be the better/bigger person equals get back on the floor, doormat. As long as the abusive person has a preferred target, nobody else has to deal with the mess. Opie and her dear husband aren't playing doormat. Good for them. Father-in-law wanted to play stupid games and won a stupid prize. Turns out he is the illegitimate one in the family. I find that hilarious. Not the a-hole. All parties agreed to the terms. Don't dish out if you can't take it. Father-in-law is lucky you let him back into your lives. So as long as everyone is respectful, then there should be no further issues. Mean words? Yes. Warranted? Absolutely. Next story. My ex left me the majority of his estate amounting to $700,000, and his parents demand that I leave it to his wife and child. My ex and I were together for almost 20 years. We never got married because it never felt necessary and we were child-free. I had problems with birth control, so he chose vasectomy. I found out that he cheated on me 3 years ago and I left him. He got with his affair partner. 6 months later, I heard that they were married. I found out that I was pregnant with my current boyfriend a year into dating, and even though we still weren't there in the relationship, we thought that we could make it happen. And sure enough, we are very happy, and we love our little family very much. My ex kept texting me on occasions like birthdays and holidays, which I never answered, but when he heard about my daughter, he sent me a lengthy and hurtful text about me cheating on him, and he never texted me again. I never answered. A few months later, my ex ended his life. This was about 4 months ago. His wife is apparently giving birth anytime now. I was surprised. I was contacted by a solicitor to tell me that I have inherited my ex's estate. He had left everything to me, besides some to his parents' pension and his nephew. I got a letter from him apologizing for what he did and saying that he loved me and wished me and my family happiness and he wanted to help with that. Now, his wife and parents are very angry and demand that I leave them everything. I don't know. Would I be the a-hole if I kept it because that is what I want actually and what he wanted? 1. Hire a lawyer. 2. Get a lawyer to take care of the details. 3. Don't spend this money, as any and all money from the estate to them should have been taken care of by probate. But they may contest the will. 4. You are not obligated to give any of that money back unless ordered by the court. He had liquidated all his assets before he was gone, sold his house, etc. Everything is liquid assets. It sounds like he knew he'd been cheated on. As others have said, get a lawyer and a paternity test before you make any decisions. If you do decide to give the child any money, do so via a trust. Being that he married the affair partner, they may be in a place with presumptive paternity. Regardless, getting a legal professional to represent her interests is a must. Presumptive paternity doesn't mean OP can't request they prove actual paternity in order to voluntarily gift some of her new money to the kid, especially since he got a vasectomy. Flip the script. They would give you nothing. Up to you if you want to keep it or ration it out. People get really weird about inheritance money and will actually destroy their own families over jealousy and such. If OP decides to ration something out, only through a lawyer. In fact, all communication with the other party should be handled through a lawyer. We'll avoid a lot of nastiness that way. In case anyone reads this and actually tries it, don't be surprised when people refuse to talk to your lawyer. They want to put pressure on you, not your lawyer. I'm just saying, it might seem on Reddit like a mic drop conversation ender, but it is not. In addition to telling them to talk to your lawyer, you also have to have the discipline to never take the bait when they're calling. Don't pick up. Don't text back. Don't email back. They will say anything to get you to reply. Anything. People with this energy have energy for it every goddamn day. That means you have to have that nope energy every day too. You can block them in all socials and all channels, but they'll find other channels. Document all the crazy, but also don't be surprised when a judge doesn't care. Everyone is crazy to them, including you. The court most likely won't put someone in jail for what the other party's doing, even though it's abuse, potential contempt/harassment, etc. They'll just let you suffer it. Sorry it's like this. Been through it a few times. If people refuse to talk to your lawyer and continue to harass you, you can get a restraining order and make sure everything is documented through your lawyer. There are very clear measures to keep you above board, even if they keep sinking lower. If they don't talk through your lawyer, they don't get what they want. They may keep at it, but as long as you toe the line, there's nothing they can do about it. Next story. Am I the a-hole? My wife won't allow my 14-year-old to speak to her half-siblings and my parents, her grandparents. I have been married since 2007 to my second wife. When we met, I had 3 children from a previous marriage who at the time were 9 female and 5-year-old twins, son and daughter. Initially, my wife and kids get along well, but when we had our own daughter together, now 14, her attitude changed dramatically, as she played extreme favoritism. In 2017, my wife convinced me to move to another state, and my agreement with her was that I would continue to see my kids on a regular basis. But this turns out to be only a few times per year. Our daughter was prohibited communicating with her half-siblings and my parents, only on my side, but it is permitted with my wife's 2 older children. I have started to put my foot down that I want to take my daughter to see her older half-siblings and get to know her grandparents as they are getting up in years. My wife is insisting that such meetings cannot happen without her. My parents and older children are not ready to just accept my wife back into their lives, as there is a lot of relationship repair that needs to happen first. Am I the a-hole for insisting that my wife stays home and that my daughter should be able to see her family? P.S. My eldest has a wedding planned for the summer, and my wife wants to go, but my eldest doesn't want her there as they haven't even spoken in 11 years, and the relationship was very hostile prior to that. My wife and I just started some couples therapy this week. Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. You know exactly why your wife is. But what heck aren't you prioritizing your children? All of them. Why are you asking your wife's permission for your children to see you and each other? You just passively moved away from your children because your wife wanted to? You've just accepted her treating your kids like crap for 14 years. It only seemed to care enough to think about possibly doing something about it now that it's clearly affecting the kid you have with her too. Your other children are already adults aged 19 to 23, and they got there without you. This is essentially what happened with my dad/stepmom and my step/half-siblings. It's better now, but it still hurts. Parents have to advocate for their kids, and they can't let their partner dictate their relationship with them. Same, though my dad and his new wife are child-free. To go from being the center of a parent's world to being kicked off to the side then completely ignored except for attacks and holidays hurts. It feels like the parents wanted a do-over with a new family. I'm honestly surprised OP's kids invited him to the wedding. I definitely wouldn't have. I guess there is some communication between him and them. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is a huge a-hole for alienating your kids and not allowing her child to know her siblings. You are an a-hole for allowing this. You have major damage to repair that is going to take time. If you continue to allow your wife to make rules regarding your children, you will lose those relationships altogether. I hope you're being honest with your couple's therapist and not sugarcoating this. Yeah, he's basically letting her steamroll their whole childhood experience in their family unit. She has extreme control issues, and he doesn't even seem to be fighting back for his own family. This would literally divorce-worthy for me if I had a partner trying to force literally any of this. No offense, but why the hell did you allow this to go on for so long? This is not okay. Your wife is an a-hole. Only thing we can say on this sub, and your kids deserve better than this woman. However, you are also the a-hole for allowing this to continue. No wonder why your wife isn't allowed at the wedding. Everyone sucks here. Because he thought with his man parts, and basically abandoned his kids with his first wife. Honestly, if I was his kid, I wouldn't even talk to him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for publicly announcing that my aunt tried to use me as a child to get back at my mom? I-19 female looked just like my late maternal grandmother. She died when my mom was only a child, but she died leaving her husband and oldest daughter deeply traumatized by her behavior and her death. Her younger daughter, my aunt, was too young to remember her or anything about the life she gave her family. My grandmother did a lot of things that left their mark on the family, and my mom especially. To add to everything else, my mom is the one who found her mother at just 8 years old. So she has always carried that around with her. I only found out I looked just like her mother when I was 6, and my aunt told me I was just like her mommy, and she was showing me all these photos she had, and a childhood once really showed a resemblance. My aunt made a big point to tell me every single similarity we had. My mom never ever made me feel like I wasn't loved or like there was something wrong with me. The only reason I knew something was up was she wasn't able to hide the sadness in her eyes when she looked at me. I also did some snooping when I was little and heard her tell my dad about the struggle she had some days to see her mom's face in me. My aunt decided to use me to hurt my mom. When I was 12, she brought me to get my hair dyed behind my mom's back and pushed me to go blonde when I wanted pink hair. Turned out, my mom knew their mother is a blonde. I realized that when I saw my mom's eyes after seeing me with blonde hair. That was the point where I realized what my aunt was doing. There was other stuff before then, like she'd buy me clothes that were similar to what their mother would have worn. My aunt had a bunch of photos of her mother, so she knew the stuff she liked to wear. She gave me a nickname as a little girl and got me so into it I tried to use it with everyone. It was a nickname my grandmother was given by some people in her life. My mom really hated that name too. I heard her tell Dad later that night. My mom adored my aunt and thought they were super close. So when I did realize what my aunt was doing, I made sure to tell her I was onto her and wouldn't be trusting her anymore. She did attempt to do some more messed up stuff, but eventually I told my dad, and he told my aunt to leave me the heck alone. We didn't see her for years during COVID or after, but then Grandpa's birthday happened just before New Year's, and she approached me and tried to manipulate me into doing the same stuff. Changed my hair and how I dress, etc. I told her I knew what she was doing, and laughed at the idea of it being to hurt Mom. So I lost my temper and made sure everyone heard what she had done when I was a kid, and that she was trying to do it again. My dad and some other people there forced my aunt to leave, but not before she told me I was such a witch for spoiling the party and publicly humiliating her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. We need to normalize shaming people who try to manipulate people to hurt others. Also, social media is a good way to get the truth out. Cutting horrible people out of one's life should also be normalized. Aunt's behavior is heartless to put it lightly, and absolutely psychotic to put it honestly. My ex has people like this, and her entire family acted like it didn't happen. If you had a sexual predator in the family, you'd tell everyone so they could not violate children and mess them up for life. Emotional and mental assault. I want to elevate it from abuse to what it truly is. Assault is equally predatory and violating. You're still messing that child up, and if that graphic description makes it real to you, then understand that happened to my children before I was able to finally protect them. Your aunt may have inherited your grandma's mental health issues. You are right to protect yourself and your family by outing her. Shaming these horrible people out of a family and out of the public square needs to be a thing. She is the B and an a-hole. You are protecting the next little girl or boy that predator tried mentally damage. You are a saint. You keep doing you. Props to you and your dad and family for backing you up and protecting the kids and family rather than the family name. Wish my exes had that much class. As a dad has had to fix his kids, thank you. Not the a-hole. You got your grandmother's looks, but it seems your aunt got her personality. Quite the achievement, since she never knew her. Just tell her you were doing what she wanted and giving her a taste of grandma. If she was publicly humiliated by everyone knowing about her cruel little game, then it's probably time she looked in the mirror or went to a therapist for whatever messed up childhood resentment she held against her mom. Or don't bother. She obviously lives for the drama. Go back to ignoring her existence. It will probably annoy her more than any response.